G'day guys, Robert from Outback Equipment. A big happy new year to you all. 2023, obviously with big things to come this year. Want to say a quick thank you to all of our followers and supporting the channel, along with obviously the TINNY build series. Big announcement, so make sure you stick around to the end of the video. We've got something pretty special for the TINNY. So on with today's install, guys, on our TINNY build series. We're installing brand new navigation lights up to the bow, all around white light at the stern, run you through all basic install and wiring. Join us along with the install today. So running you quickly through obviously the product, guys. We've chosen Relaxn, obviously our chosen brand. We've obviously used it throughout the rest of the install and it's been fantastic. So we're stuck with obviously that brand. We've chosen the black cover ones. These come obviously in chrome and stainless steel as an option. We've chosen the black obviously to keep in theme with obviously the black wrap. In your packet we've got here, guys, it's kind of already wired to the back of the light. We've got obviously your positive, negative on both sides. You've got nuts and bolts there too for the install. So all we're going to require today is basically a drill bit, and obviously some wiring and other bits and pieces. So with our all-around anchor light, guys, again, we've chosen Relaxn as our brand, this being a telescopic model. Again, with our Queensland regulations, with this particular light, it have to have an arc over a horizon of 360 degrees, meaning that regardless of the highest point of your boat, it must be visible 360 degrees. That being said, with our navigation lights, to comply with Queensland regulations, these have to have an arc of 112.5 degrees, meaning if it was shooting forward of the hull, it has to have that radius. So tools required for this job, guys, cordless drill, Phillips head, one drill bit obviously for the pilot holes for your wiring, the back of your lights. As to obviously your all-around white light, a couple connectors, crimps, twin core, we're just going with 4mm, which is plenty, and perhaps a couple ring spanners there, so nice and simple. So grabbing our lights, guys, out of the box, showing a little indicator of your red and green. For you guys at home, red meaning left, meaning port, green is starboard, meaning right as well, so nice and simple. Next step, basically with your wiring, we're going to having to drill a hole, the diameter of that, just as a locator. We're just grabbing the light and just measuring it up against the actual plate, so giving an idea where it's going to be mounted. So a little cool feature, guys, with these Relaxn navigation lights, you might notice this little shroud, so it sort of allows the wire to come out a little bit further past the light, so when you're actually drilling a hole, it's stopping that chafing, that scuffing around the actual wiring, so pretty clever, I reckon. So you're going to roughly mark that out. Again, just line everything back up again. That looks pretty square there. So guys, drilling a hole, we're starting off with a smaller drill bit. We'll use our next drill bit to step up. So guys, we've drilled our hole out now, just feeding your wires through that hole. Once you've drilled that hole, you can technically use that as a pilot hole, just to hold the light there. So now we can go actually ahead and drill in our securing bolt. Now that we've got our two holes drilled out, we're just grabbing our bolt little kit there. We've got our bolt through there, a little nylon washer. We've got our nut on the back, which we'll go up and do up. So guys, that's pretty much the light pre-install, pre-wiring. We're yet to probably come up with an idea where we're actually be going and feeding actual wiring through. Thinking perhaps drilling a hole at the top here and using a grommet just to stop that water obviously coming in, ingressing coming in. I just want to quickly point out what we mentioned before, obviously having that sort of shroud, that's come through the thickness of basically that 4 or 5mm aluminium, and it's protecting that wiring, guys. So I just really wanted to point that out because that's really cool. It's not going to be chafing our wiring and obviously shortening it out. Where we're going to run our wire, guys, we're probably a little unsure as to where that might be. We don't really want to be wiring over the top of this because it's going to look untidy. You can probably tie it up with a bit of split tube. We might drill a hole at the top here and use just perhaps a grommet just to stop that water coming in. So we'll get to that. We'll fit the other side and we'll come back to that. All right, guys, we're on the other side now doing exactly the same thing we did obviously on the left-hand side with your navigation light. We'll then jump back to making the decision where we're going to be drilling those holes for our wiring too. Now we've got both sides on with our navigation lights onto our wiring, making the decision with the correct drill bit. We're just going to be drilling at the top there of the bow to the thickness of your wiring. I think it's approximately 4, maybe 5mm. because it's not going to be moving, we're not too worried about it chafing, so having drilled to the right size is going to stop the water from coming in. So we're pulling our wiring through that drilled hole now. We still want, obviously not at too tight, so just enough slack there obviously for a little bit of movement back towards the battery. We're actually going to probably use a little bit of silicone just to cover the top of the hole, again stopping that water from coming in. Onto our wiring with our navigation lights. Because the switch is on the right hand side down the back of the boat, we're going to run some split tube and some P-clamps just nice and tidy up underneath the bow of the boat, running to the other side on the right hand side. We're going to be running both wires obviously back to just a single switch, which we'll go ahead and do now. So with our ring terminals and joiners, guys, we've chosen heat shrink, particularly in our marine industry. They've probably chosen obviously to get that proper nice seal and to stop obviously water ingress coming through. So we've joined our wires all up. Shout out to Andy because we happened to have lost our lighter. So now we've got our joiners there. We're just going to roughly measure out distance back to our switch. With our wiring, you're doing exactly the same on the opposite side. Obviously it's going to be shorter this side, because we're just running it basically right back to the switch. So I'm not too stressed obviously with the neatness of the wiring, so long as we've got a good connection and making sure you spend the time with your joiners. We're going to be covering this up again with split tube to make it look nice and pretty. Now we're at the switch. Now we run all of our cabling back to the switch. I'm just going to splice in line with obviously one of the leads because we're only having to do the positive on our bus bar. And running the negative back to the back of the battery. Now this is all isolated again too, so and obviously inline fused. Now we'll go ahead and install them to the switch. We've just run both our port and starboard navigation light into the one positive blade, which is going to be running directly into our switch, again, which is positive to our positive buzz bar. With our negative wiring, we've just run, again, split into a single, which is going to be running directly to the back of the battery. So we'll go ahead and whack them in there. We'll tidy up and around the switch and we'll run that negative to the battery. All right guys, so we've pre-wired everything basically to the switch and back to the battery. With our switch panel, we should be able to just turn that on. Hopefully, Ben, we have lights. Voila. So that wraps up our install of those navigation lights, guys. Similar install, we're jumping onto our all-around anchor light. The only additional tool for requiring basically installing this one will be a hole saw, which we'll show you later in the video on the install of your flush mount base, which we'll go ahead and do now. So with your all-around anchor light there, guys, we want to be locating in a position where it's probably closest to the battery, closest to the switch. It makes sense being on the right-hand side, but also in a location you can easily access to obviously remove when you're not needing. So choice generally on most boats and installs are going to be on your right-hand side starport. Generally in a location at the back of the boat is generally obviously on your transom, whether it be on a gunnel. For our install, we've got this section to work with, which is just enough room to install our flush mount base. Still not interfering with your rod hole, still able to use obviously your fishing rod as well. So that's our end result, obviously with your hole drill, very similar to your navigation lights, feeding your wiring through, poking that through, and now onto basically marking out some pilot holes for the bolts. So we drilled our 3 holes there, guys. I forgot to mention, you do obviously require that hole saw, but you also do need some nuts or bolts or rivets for basically the install. Unfortunately, they don't come with the kit. So we've got our aluminium rivets here, which we'll go ahead and fit in there now. Now we've got our rivets in there, we're on to the next step of basically wiring it up. Again, very similar to our navigation lights. Positive and negative. Negative is going to be nice and simple because the battery's at the back of the boat, which will run directly to there. Positive obviously will run up to our switch panel, up to our positive bus bar. So that's a wrap, guys, of our new install of our brand new navigation lights and all-round anchor light. That big announcement I mentioned at the beginning of the video, guys, we're giving away the Outback Equipment Tinny. So to you, one of you lucky viewers, official drop will be in the next few weeks. So make sure you're liking, subscribing, commenting on all of our videos. That's a wrap up for this basically install. Make sure you head to our website at outbackequipment.com.au, check out our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you in the next video.